Hello, everybody. David Burdett here, lead editor with GamingTrend.com, and we are here at Summer Game Fest. We're checking out Synced from Level Infinite. I've got Joe with me today. He's going to tell us all about it. What's up?
Glad to have you guys. Yeah, welcome. Thanks for checking everything out. So yeah, this is Synced. It's our upcoming futuristic sci-fi free-to-play companion shooter. Hope you remembered all that. There will be a quiz later. Okay. Not in that order though. Yeah, so basically what we're looking at here is the menu for our PvP and PvE components.
Okay.
The PvE component is called Nerbarun. Two teams drop into a map. They're fighting over various objectives and resources. Over the course of the game, those objectives and resources dwindle, become less, and therefore the tension ratchets up. It's a really, really fun mode. And then our PvE experience we call Dead Sector runs.
Okay.
So the Dead Sector runs, we're going to start out with these 5 at launch. You're basically going through the map, searching down surge storms that are being controlled by enemies. You find the surge storm, take out the enemies, the surge storm clears up, you move on to the next. You progress through collecting Radia, which is one of the in-game currencies that we use. You spend that Radia at exchanges to buy perks.
Okay.
You build your character in that run with those perks. And then at the end, you've got, your big bad boss fight. And then after that, you get a little bit of loot. You head back to your home base of Haven. And you can build out your character permanently from there.
Okay.
Upgrade your weapons, all that kind of stuff.
So it's one of those,
Really
it's
fun.
important to make it through the run, because that's where you're
It
getting all your
helps,
stuff.
yeah, it helps. Because, once you make it through the run, you're finding various bits of gear that are going to help your character, progress and level and all that kind of thing. It's really good. So what we're seeing now is essentially a cinematic that's giving you some backstory on kind of what got us here, right? So
Okay.
A company called Shinar invented nanotechnology that the world has come to rely on for everyday life. Sounds familiar, I know,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
A little scary. But surprise, surprise, something goes wrong. The nanotechnology sort of goes feral and starts, trying to take over the world, basically. So your character, which is known as a runner, makes its way here to this exclusion zone where everything sort of, the ground zero of where everything sort of happened, called the Meridian. And from there, it's just sort of kind of trying to get rich or die trying,
Cool.
That's sort of the motivation. At launch, we're going to have several different runners, each with their own backstories and their own, their own focused motivations. But as far as just like the basic high-level motivation, that's kind of it. That's where we are.
Cool.
Yeah, we can skip that part. So we're going to pick up basically 2 years after the collapse, we call it. Your character is essentially just going to be going through this area, killing enemies, collecting Radia, spending the Radia on the perks, and then finding a Prime Nano to weaken and then sync with. So that's where we get the name Synced, is from that companion shooter aspect that I mentioned earlier. You find a Prime Nano, weaken it, sync with it, and then you bring in this sort of other element to your build crafting. So
Okay.
you have your build in the traditional sense of your skill tree and whatever, your perks that are always with your character. But then as you go on different Dead Sector runs, again, you're collecting that Radia, using it in the exchanges. You're purchasing the perks from the exchanges. So you're building out the character further for every run, right?
Yeah.
So it's really cool. And then when you bring the nano element into it, it gets even more interesting because at launch we'll have 4 nanos, all with different, roles, I guess you could say. And it's really cool because you can have the nano sort of out doing its thing, being your companion, drawing aggro or hunting down enemies or whatever the case may be. But if you bring the nano in, it sort of lives in your armband here, and
Okay.
it gives you passive bonuses that you just sort of always have. Like, for example, increased melee speed and melee damage, things like that. We have one called the Guardian that if it's on your armband, you aim down your sights, you'll get a shield that comes up to protect you. So the Crusher is all about, melee. The Guardian is all about shields and defense. We've got one that's called the Seer that sort of shows you the battlefield, shows you your enemies, things like that. And one that sort of patrols around. So there's a lot of different things that are kind of coming together in concert to make the experience really fresh every time you do a Dead Sector.
Cool. And are the nanos, is that one of those things that you can swap out
Yep.
as you go?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so you can swap. So from match to match, from run to run, you can swap out your nano.
Awesome.
And then when you go into the next Dead Sector run or the next PvP match, you'll have that nano equipped. So that's again, adding to whatever build, whatever gameplay approach you're targeting.
Cool. So I go in one way and I'm like, man, I need a shield. But then the other time I'm like, okay, I want to sit back.
Yeah, you literally can do exactly that in the moment, and it's cool because you can, unless your nano dies, there's no cooldown, right? So if you deploy the nano, in this case, let's say you deploy the Crusher and you want to draw some aggro, but then you think, oh, I actually want to pull it back onto my armband and get those melee damage, those melee bonuses. You can do that in the moment, and you can go back and forth between the two. So it's really cool.
Well, and then it looks like you're controlling one of these characters, or I guess that's the nano.
Yeah, so you control the runner, and then the nano sort of operates based on whatever its role is, kind of however it works. The Crusher, they're mostly they're really pretty much autonomous, and they do their own thing automatically. So once you deploy them, they kind of go do their own thing, and then again, if you need to call them back in and you want to take a different approach, you can do that. But right now, you'll see we're collecting some radia, and we'll go up here, fight a few more enemies, and then we'll get our first exchange where we can sort of check out some of the match-specific perks.
Cool. So right now, since the Crusher's actually on your arm, it's better melee damage, right, at the moment.
Yeah, I believe, if I remember correctly, I believe the bonuses on this one are melee speed and melee damage. I think.
Cool.
Pretty sure. But yeah, it really is just another cool way to sort of, again, let the player make the decision of how they want to handle each engagement and literally each enemy. You could let him go here to fight this guy, pull him back in to fight some other guys, and it's just kind of all about what you want to do in the moment.
And it's without, overwhelming the player with too many options. You can do that too.
And again, you have all these things working in the background, right? You build your player out build your character out in the traditional sense, and then within the run, you're using that build and then building on the build. I know I'm saying build a lot, build, but you're building on that with the perks that you're getting from the exchanges in the run.
It's like right here, it made a lot of sense to send Crusher out.
So this is the perfect example. You can see here where he's drawing the aggro. The enemies kind of come up. I think Jorn chose one of my favorite perks there, the Reload Blast, which is basically where when you reload from an empty mag, it ejects a grenade that will bounce 2 or 3 times and damage enemies. It gets really funny sometimes, and it's fun to watch those enemies just fly around the place. It's awesome.
For sure.
So here we've got another exchange. You can see there on the top, that perk Kinetic Rage is focused on your nano. So you'll find perks that are focused on your nano and on your runner. And you can, again, even in that choice, build out however you want for that run.
Awesome.
It's really cool. And so this, I think I mentioned earlier, but this is essentially the Storm Surge, or the Surge Storm that we talked about. So once you kill this big bad guy here, the mini boss, the Locust Nano, that clears everything up. So that's what you want to do in the PvE modes. Find those Surge Storms, clear them out, clear out the enemies, and then you kind of got to move on to the next one. What's interesting too is that you'll have a meter in the actual dead sectors. You have a meter that goes up as the surge increases, the difficulty increases.
Okay.
So if you want that difficulty, by all means, hang back and take your time. But if you want to be quicker and more efficient and have a little bit easier go of it, you have to stay on your toes.
Yeah, it's the do it quicker so that way you don't deal with as much damage.
The difficulty, doesn't go up quite as fast. And then and then by the end of it, again, you're going into boss fight with one of the several bosses that we're going to have at launch in those first 5 dead sectors.
How long is a typical run?
It really depends. I mean, you're looking at probably 20, 25 minutes.
Okay.
20 to 30 minutes. I mean, it could be. It just depends. And of course, we have team play and solo as well. So it could take a solo player a little longer. maybe at first. As the community guy, that's the thing I'm most looking forward to is just seeing people's builds and what they come up with
Exactly.
that we haven't even been able to dream up yet. You know?
Exact, because players will always figure out the things you didn't think
Absolutely.
were possible.
Well, I mean, because it's like you're QA testing in a sense on a large, massive scale.
Yep.
There's just no way to know until you've got it in the hands of that many players. Now we've done several betas and demos and tests and things like that. I think the team has done a really good job of getting the game in front of players. So our core community, and we do have one already, and the game hasn't even launched yet.
Awesome.
Our core community is very familiar with the game, how it works. They're already doing a lot of those things, build crafting and sort of thinking about, ooh, here's what I want to do next time I'm able to play. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I hate it. I think I actually got into a beta and then missed it because something was going on.
Well, hey, that's not a problem, man. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be a part of Steam Next Fest, like I think I mentioned. So
Yep.
We'll have a full demo there. In fact, I think we're going to have some new content that people haven't played yet. We're going to have
Awesome.
Dead Sectors 1, 2, and 3, and the PvP mode will be back for this test. The last test, we only did PvE.
Yeah.
PvP mode is back, and you can do team play or solo in each of those.
Awesome.
So there's going to be a lot to do. It's going to be really fun.
So in this right here is another surge that's going
Yeah,
on.
this is another kind of bigger surge. This is sort of more akin to what the Dead Sectors are actually like. It is really more frenetic. You've got a lot more prime nanos running around, a lot more little guys that you've got to watch out for, and then you've got the Locust Nano mini boss as well.
And again, Crusher's making it a lot easier to handle some of this because of
Yeah,
drawing out that aggro.
I think so. Here we've got a nice execute. That's always fun. We've got at least one big bad left. But yeah, you can see, I mean, really, they're just enemies everywhere, and that's one of my favorite parts is just the chaos. The chaos that can ensue when you build out in a certain way. You've got just grenades and explosions and just things everywhere. It's bedlam, and it's so much fun.
Did that swap to first person for a second
It
there?
can, yeah,
Okay.
it can. So if you aim down sights and you click the right stick on controller, it will aim down sight in a first person
Okay.